to my new and improved system for delivering lessons. I don't know how well this is going to work because I'm not sure how well the camera is going to be able to see the text that's on the screen, but I do want to try to keep things as close to normal, right? So this is our projector screen. Granted, it's my TV, but same idea. So that way you can see the slides, you can also see me at the same time. And again, I might have to cut away on some of them so you can actually see the slide itself, but I thought we'd try this new method of lesson delivery so that way it's even a little closer to what we would have in the classroom. Alright, so today, as you can see, our topic is natural resources. So we're going to take a look at what are resources, and we're going to find out about the two different categories that we use in order to classify and to talk about resources. Alright, so let's jump right in and talk about, well, what actually is a resource. So here on the screen, I'll stand a little bit more to the side so you can see behind me. We've got a bunch of different materials. We've got a cow, we've got some water, we've got oil, we've got wheat, we've got trees, we've got all kinds of rocks and minerals. And all of these things are resources. So what by definition is a resource? Well, a resource is a material and energy sources that are useful or necessary to meet people's needs, right? So a resource might be something that's nice to have, that you don't really have to have it to survive, but it's useful. And resources may be things that are necessary, right? Like we would definitely say water is a necessary resource because you can't live very long without water. So we would definitely say food materials are things that are necessary resources, although things like the cow, right? I'm a vegetarian. I don't need to eat cows in order to survive. So some food sources are definitely useful, maybe not exactly necessary. So what we're going to be focused on today is how do we take this idea of resources and how can we look at it in terms of this question here, how quickly can I get some more of it, right? That's what we're going to look at for classifying resources is how quickly, if I pick up a piece of broccoli and I eat it, how quickly can I get some more? So that gives us two different categories. We're going to be talking today about what makes a resource renewable and then what makes a resource non-renewable. And again, this all has to do with how quickly can I get some more. Are there different ways to classify resources? Yes. We're going to focus on these two categories though, renewable and non-renewable. So let's start by defining what a renewable resource is. So renewable resources are resources that can be replaced by nature as quickly as they are used or within a human lifetime. Examples include things like sun, plants, animals, and water. So the key here is that they are either replaced very quickly or within a human lifetime, and average human lifetime we're saying is about 70 to 80 years. I want to also make sure it's clear that it's being replaced by nature and by natural processes. So humans are not making something in a factory or in a laboratory. These are things that when we use them, the earth through natural processes will be replaced quickly or within 70 to 80 years. So let's look at some different examples of renewable resources just so we have a variety to talk about. So we've definitely got things like the sun. The sun is one of the most important renewable resources because it's always available to us. Although, yes, technically, right, Earth is rotating, so there's about 12 hours where we're not directly getting the sun, but it is always there. We've got things like water in our water cycle that's constantly being renewed. Trees and all kinds of other plants, they do take some time to grow, right? Especially like this acacia tree here. That tree probably took a good 60 to 70 years to grow, but that's definitely within a human lifetime. And then all kinds of different animals, whether they're catfish or chicken or birds or horses or cows or goats, those are all resources that can be made again by nature, right? Because living things reproduce, and that's going to take less than a human lifetime. Obviously, it might take a couple of years for an animal to grow big enough for us to slaughter it and eat it, but that's still within a human lifetime. So all of these are examples of renewable resources. But there's another category of resources out there that is going to take way longer than a human lifetime to be renewed, right? In order for nature to replace it, it's going to take hundreds, thousands, even millions of years for Earth to replace it. So that is our other category of resources, what we call non-renewable resources. These are resources that are used more quickly than they can be replaced by nature. And so they take hundreds, thousands, and millions of years to renew. These are definitely not going to be renewed within a human lifetime. And some examples include coal and oil, which we'll talk more about in a moment, are called fossil fuels, and all kinds of rocks and minerals. These are resources that the Earth does make, but when we use them, nature is going to take an incredibly long time to make more of. So as you can probably figure out, if we use up our non-renewable resources, if we use them too quickly, we're not going to have any more available because they take Earth such a very long time to produce. An example of that with rocks and minerals is what's called the rock cycle. So you may or may not have studied this in elementary school, but maybe you watched a Magic School Bus episode about it. The rock cycle shows us how rocks can constantly change. Metamorphic rocks can turn into igneous, and igneous can turn into sedimentary, and sedimentary can turn into igneous, right? There's this constant process that is going to make new rocks and minerals. However, this cycle is incredibly slow. It takes thousands and millions of years for new rocks to form, so any kind of rock or mineral is non-renewable. Another category of non-renewable resources that I want to talk about is what we call fossil fuels. Fossil fuels is this category, it's this kind of overall name, and within that category, examples of fossil fuels are coal, oil, and natural gas. And what's interesting about them is that they're all made from the remains of once living plants and animals. So the way fossil fuels work is there was 300 million years ago, before the dinosaurs, this is very key, before the dinosaurs were ever on the planet, there were all kinds of giant forests with all kinds of plants. And a lot of those plants died, and particularly in areas that were swampy, where there was a lot of water. These plants and animals, they died. And over millions of years, the plants and animals, they got buried underwater and under dirt. And what happened was all of that layer of dirt that's laying on top of them, over time, heat and pressure is going to press down on the dead plants and animals, turning them into fossil fuels like coal, oil, and natural gas. So this obviously takes a very long time. So the coal and oil and natural gas that we're pulling out of the ground, that is 300 million years old. And just so we're clear, the dinosaurs, they went extinct 65 million years ago, so they are not old enough yet. They have not been cooking and being heated up inside the earth long enough to turn them into coal, oil, and natural gas yet. But this is a natural process that creates these different substances inside the earth. The only problem is it takes an incredibly long time to make them, and so that's why coal, oil, and natural gas are all non-renewable resources. So now that we've had a chance to look at the definition of renewable and non-renewable resource, we're going to see, can you tell the difference? So I'm going to put up some different images, and I want you to write down on your imaginary whiteboard slate, is that object renewable or non-renewable? And again, if you don't have your imaginary whiteboard slate, that's okay. You can just call out the answer to the video. So let's see if you can tell the difference between renewable and non-renewable resources. We've got a gaggle of geese. That's what you call a group of geese, a gaggle. So what about a gaggle of geese? Is this a renewable or non-renewable resource? A gaggle of geese is a renewable resource because they will grow again within human lifetime. Our next one is we've got some rocks and minerals here. So the one here, this is coal. That's a sedimentary rock. And this is a mineral that's called malachite. And that yellowish brown in the malachite is copper. So are these two rocks and minerals, are they renewable or non-renewable? They are going to take a really long time to make more of, so these are both non-renewable. All right, our next one, here we've got a forest with some trees. Again, we're just focused on the trees, not on the mountains in the background, so the trees in the forest. Is that renewable or non-renewable? Well, if we cut them down, they will be able to grow again. So they are renewable. Trees can grow again within a human lifetime. All right, our next one, we've got your favorite food, broccoli. Is broccoli renewable or non-renewable? Well, for those of you who do not like broccoli, this is bad news. It is most definitely renewable because we can grow more of it, and it definitely takes a short amount of time. All right, our next one, oil. So oil, the liquid fossil fuel that we dig out of the earth, is that renewable or non-renewable? Hope you remember that this was mentioned earlier in the lesson. It is non-renewable because it takes millions and millions of years for dead and decayed plant and animal materials to be cooked and smushed and turned into oil. So it is non-renewable on human timescales. Our next one, we're not focused on the windmills or these wind turbines. We're looking at what they are using, which is the wind. So is wind a renewable or non-renewable resource? The air that's blowing on this planet, the wind, renewable or non-renewable? Well, hopefully you remember this from the previous unit. Wind is always happening on Earth. It is definitely renewable. And remember, wind is possible because Earth is being heated unevenly, and we're also on a planet that's turning, so the Coriolis effect makes air turn, and that creates wind. All right, our next one. Here we are looking at the water. This is called a dam, a hydroelectric dam. So is water renewable or non-renewable? Again, we're focused on the water. Water is renewable or non-renewable? Well, we just finished talking about the water cycle, so water is definitely renewable. Next one, ooh, what a pretty sapphire we have here. So gemstones, you could think of sapphires, rubies, emeralds, diamonds. Are those renewable or non-renewable resources? So gemstones, like this sapphire, are non-renewable. They take a very long time, millions of years for the earth to make, because gemstones are technically a type of rock or mineral, so they take an incredibly long amount of time for the earth to make naturally. Now, for those of you who are like, but we can make them in a lab, yes, that is true. We can make synthetic diamonds and rubies and gemstones, but in this case, we're talking about the naturally occurring ones, and they are non-renewable. All right, our next one. So here, I want you to focus in on the water that is being scooped up inside the person's canteen. So we're not just talking about regular old water, drinking water. Water that is clean enough for you to drink. Is that renewable or non-renewable? So this one's a little bit more tricky because you have to consider, hey, what happens if that water gets polluted? If it gets dirty, will it clean itself? Well, drinking water is technically what we consider non-renewable. Earth does naturally filter water, but it takes a really long time, longer than a human is going to be around. So through natural processes, polluted water will get cleaned, water will trickle down into groundwater and be held in underground reservoirs, but that takes a really long time. And if you're an animal who lives in the wild and somebody dumps pollution or chemicals in your lake, you're not going to be able to use it anymore. So from that perspective, drinking water is what we would consider to be non-renewable, because it takes nature a very long time to make it clean again. So for this one, we are going to switch gears here a little bit. So we're still going to look at renewable and non-renewable, but I want to focus on what's the origin of the object, because we like to think, oh, the grocery store is where stuff comes from, but no, it was grown somewhere, or it came from someplace on Earth. So for the next set of things we're going to do, we're going to look at where did it come from, and is that resource renewable or non-renewable. Let's start by looking at an example. So this is a leather jacket, and I want to know what is the natural resource that the leather jacket is from, because leather comes from someplace. And if you didn't know this, now you're going to know that a cow is the natural resource that leather comes from, because you kill the cow and then you skin the cow, and then you take the cow's skin and you add different chemicals and a process called tanning, and you get leather. So a cow is the natural resource a leather jacket comes from, and a cow is a renewable resource. So what you're going to do for the next set of pictures is you're going to identify what natural resource each item came from. And you'll also identify if the resource is renewable or non-renewable. And you can do that by just simply writing R or N on your slate. And just so you know, some of the objects that we're going to look at, they come from multiple natural resources. So you might have more than one natural resource on your list, and that's okay. So our first one, we'll start off with something easy. What is paper made from? What is the natural resource paper is made from, and is that resource renewable or non-renewable? Let's check in with two of my replacement students and see what they figured out. So Love a Lot, you have said wood. I kind of wish you'd go a little bit further there, because wood is from something else. And Figment, oh, you're being quite imaginative. You're clearly thinking of what you learned about in ancient Egypt. So papyrus, yeah, that is a plant that's used to make paper. I like how you guys both have R for renewable. It is a tree. A tree is a renewable resource. If you also said a plant, you can also be correct there too. All right, our next one, good old peanut butter and jelly. What's it made from? All right, let's see what you got. So Love a Lot, you have wheat, good job. Jelly, jelly comes from something, and peanuts are not from peas. Let's see, Figment, bread. Bread doesn't grow naturally out of the ground. Love a Lot got that it's made of wheat. Jellyfish, wow, that's creative. No, jelly is not made from jellyfish, but good, you did figure out peanut butter is made from peanuts. Let's look at our other correct answers. So one of those materials is wheat. Another one is grapes. You could have also said strawberries, and peanuts. And all three of those are renewable resources because we can grow more of them. What's it made from? We got some foil here. I bet you got some in your kitchen. What is that foil made from? And don't say foil, because that's not a natural resource. So what is this foil made from? I am purposely not saying the word that goes in front of foil because I don't want to give it away. Okay, let's see. Love a Lot has said, I don't know. Okay, good. And good, Figment. You have definitely said it's a metal. You've correctly identified it's non-renewable, but I wish you would go just a little bit deeper into what specific type of metal it is. Let's see if other people figured it out. So aluminum foil is typically the type we use, so that's aluminum. It's actually made from a mineral called bauxite, and it is a non-renewable resource because it takes Earth a long time to create aluminum. You could have also said tin. We typically don't use tin foil in our houses, but if you also thought about tin foil, tin would also be a possible answer here. All right, what is it made of? These are some tortillas. What is a tortilla made from? Let's see what we've got. So I'll start with Figment. Figment said masa, which is good, but masa is made from something. So I'd like you to go a little bit deeper there, but you're right, it's renewable. And oh, love a lot. Oh, we need to talk about that. Everybody, we need to take a moment here to do a little bit of review about words and spelling, because guess what? They matter. Flower, F-L-O-W-E-R, is not the same thing as flour, F-L-O-U-R. Okay, there are two possible answers here. Your tortillas could be made of corn, or they could be made of wheat. All right, what's it made from? Your pencil, which maybe you haven't used as much anymore since everything's electronic these days. But there is a pencil. It is made, I'm going to tell you this, of 4 natural resources that this is made of. Okay, so let's see what we got. All right, so Levelot, you've definitely identified trees, but remember, I told you there were going to be 4 different materials. You've only given me 1. And Figment, you've lost your pencil. I'm sorry to hear that. That's not the answer I was looking for, and go check the pencil bucket because I'm not going to give you one right now. Our answers here. The tree provided the wood, so that's a renewable resource. The graphite, that's the thing that you actually write with. It's not renewable. It came from a mine. Somebody dug into the earth to get that graphite. And just so we're clear, no lead. Lead is toxic. We don't put that into pencils anymore. The eraser is made of rubber, and rubber is actually renewable. If you didn't know, there are things called rubber trees. They grow. And then the metal that's used at the top of the pencil in order to hold the eraser, the metal is obviously non-renewable because that is something that we get from a mine in the earth. So that is what is in your pencil. Next one, we got some plastic grocery bags. So what are plastic grocery bags made of? And I know many of you right now are writing down plastic, but what is plastic made of? Okay, so let's see, we have no idea, but I guess that doesn't surprise me seeing as your brains are made out of cotton stuffing. So what is the actual answer? Okay, believe it or not, plastic is made from oil, yes, and a bunch of other chemicals that go with that, but the main resource is oil, and oil is a non-renewable resource. All right, our next one, we've got some guacamole. Don't focus on the chips, focus on the guacamole. So what is guacamole made from? Okay, oh, guys, I think you're missing the point of what we're doing. I'm glad to hear, Levelot, that your mom makes the best, and Figment, it's not green stuff, it comes from an actual plant. Let's see if anybody else got the right answer. All right, now I know there might be slightly different recipes depending on what you're doing, but typically the 2 key ingredients in guacamole is avocados and tomatoes. You could have also said cilantro, some people say lemon juice, I've heard some people say peppers. So any kind of those things, they are all renewable resources because we can grow more avocados, we can grow more tomatoes. Our next one, we've got some plastic water bottles. Plastic water bottles, what are they made from? And again, we're talking about the disposable kind. Hey, guys, you're as bad as my normal students. No, Levelot, you need a bathroom pass in order to go to the bathroom. And Figment, look at the clock and answer your own question. Oh my gosh. Okay, I hope the rest of you figured out what the answer was because Levelot and Figment, you're useless. And hopefully you remember plastic
is made from oil, so it is a non-renewable resource, and this is why it is so important to not use throw-away water bottles, because you are just constantly throwing out material that takes the earth millions of years to create, because plastic is made from oil as its natural resource material.
Okay, so thank you for joining me today. Hopefully you've got a better feel for what makes a resource renewable or non-renewable, and you've also had a chance to think a little bit more about what the things that you use every day, what resources they come from. Tomorrow we're going to go into a resource that's renewable that we didn't mention today. It's because it's invisible. It's a gas. It's around us in the atmosphere, and it actually makes up 78% of our atmosphere. I'm not going to tell you what that gas is right now, but hopefully maybe you remember from when we talked about the atmosphere. We're going to talk about the renewable resource that makes up 78% of our atmosphere tomorrow. Make sure to check out the self-quiz in Google Classroom. Thank you for watching.